Welcome to rSlash Nuclearrevenge, where a sexual assaulter gets 25 years to life. Our next Reddit post is from Lucario Stormblade. This nuclear revenge tale took 15 years to finally resolve, and I couldn't be happier. First, some background. My ex-stepfather is an awful man. My mother married him because she thought that I needed a man in my life to help raise me. He was verbally abusive and was just a toxic person to be around. Even when he and my mother divorced, he still insisted on trying to see me, and I had to be forced to go see him and his new wife every other weekend. When I moved away from the city he was in, due to me ending up in foster care, I didn't bother looking him up, nor trying to find out if he was still even alive. So when I moved back to my hometown in 2008, I was kinda surprised to find out that he was still alive. When I moved back to the city, I worked my butt off and bought myself my first car, a 1992 Buick Regal Custom. I loved that car, and I also loved helping people out, which was easier with a car. Well, my ex-stepdad knew about the car because he had seen me driving around town, running errands for the local homeless shelter where I volunteered, taking guys to the doctor's office when they didn't want to wait on a bus, stuff like that, and he was a resident at that shelter. Through my volunteer work at the shelter, I had befriended a couple of young guys who had landed on hard times and were just working odd jobs to save up some money to move back to their hometown, the same town that I had just moved from. After hearing about this and their plans to take a bus down there, I told them no, I would actually drive them there for like $40 in gas, saving them about $250. We made arrangements and set a date for their departure. Apparently, my ex-stepdad heard about this. So he cornered them in the shower that night and told them that he was going to have his way with them. He said that after I drove them to town, I would be expecting the same kind of payment from them. When they refused, he threatened to kill them, so they finally agreed to let him have his way with them. When I showed up to pick them up the next morning, I could tell the air was off, like something bad had happened. Yesterday, these two guys were eager to leave the city behind, and now they treated my car as if it had live vipers in the passenger seat. So I asked them what was up. They told me they didn't know about leaving the city with me, and I assured them that it would be fine, not knowing what my ex-stepdad had done the night prior. After a little coaxing, they loaded up my truck and off we went. I could feel the tension in the car. After we crossed into the neighboring state, they asked me if I could just drop them off at a hotel and they would try to find other accommodations down to where they were going. I said that I wouldn't mind, but I wanted to know what brought on the sudden change of plans. After tearful choking up in the back seat, they told me what had transpired the night before with my ex-stepdad, and I saw red. Oh, I absolutely despise this man. I wanted to, no, I needed to hurt him, but how? After assuring the two boys that they were going to be fine and that I wasn't about to do to them what my stepfather did to them, they finally allowed me to take them all the way to their town. I instructed them to file assault charges against him and to make sure they submit DNA samples to the cops, and they assured me they would. On the way back, I plotted my revenge against him, and that's when it dawned on me. My ex-stepdad was a registered offender for some stupid night when he was 16. He had told me before that he was caught urinating on an elementary school swing set as a youth, and as a result, he had to register. I also know that he didn't register in our state for the last couple of years, because had he done so, he would have been kicked out of the shelter that he was staying in, since they do community outreach meals for residents, but also anyone who needed a hot meal that day, which would also include children. So on the way back, I told the Office of Admissions staff that they had an offender in their shelter, and if they didn't get them out, I would report the shelter to the cops. They took action almost immediately, but when they went to evict him, he was nowhere to be seen. He had taken off, not to be seen again, or so I thought. You see, when he vanished from the shelter that day, he thought the safest place to hide out was in his hometown, 9 states away. A smarter person would have looked up what his registration entailed and would have known that fleeing across state lines without informing law enforcement is a felony. And it doesn't just stop at the state that he left, but carries over to every state between the point of origin and the destination. So he had racked up 9 felony charges against him just for that one little trip. Fast forward to about 3 months ago. I got a message from the two boys on Facebook asking me for my new number. I gave it to them, and almost immediately they put me in touch with the county sheriff, who had a federal agent in his office asking if I knew where my ex-stepdad was. As I was telling both gentlemen that I didn't have a clue, my Facebook pinged. It was my ex-stepdad's wife telling me to give her husband a chance to reconcile. Ugh. A quick look on her page revealed that they were together, living in my hometown, and what's more, they were living next door to the school that he was caught urinating on all those years ago. I relayed that information to both gentlemen and asked them what charges they had on him. They said they had 2 counts of statutory on him and 3 counts of felony evasion. I mentioned his failure to register and that the day he left my hometown, he had ran to his hometown 9 states away. The county sheriff thanked me for informing him. Ladies and gentlemen, that dirtbag nearly ruined my life, my trust with other people, and my reputation in my hometown. But he finally got what was owed to him. 25 years to life, and he isn't eligible for parole for another 17 years, if he lives that long. He's better off rotting in the depths of Tartarus for all the lives he's ruined. Man, you know that a parent is a true scumbag when a kid who enters the system would rather stay in the system than go with a stepfather. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what is. Our next Reddit post is from Excellent Usual. I'm a 28-year-old man. I married my wife, who's 26 3 years ago, and we had been together for 6 years. When we met, I was already in my 3rd year of college for a special branch of a very productive industry. It kind of works like the US Army, where you go to a different country for a few months, do some really dangerous work, get paid a ton, come back for a few months, and then repeat. OP's being super vague here, but I have a feeling that this is either fishing or oil rig work. In the beginning, I was gone for 6, 8, sometimes even 10 months to get promoted as fast as possible. Now I earn about 4 years worth of an average salary in my country in just 3 months of work. It's a hard job, but I love it. My wife was very supportive, and I always knew that it was very hard for her to have this kind of lifestyle. I always tried to spoil her and compensate for my time spent away from her with tons of gifts and trips to exotic places. 2 years ago, when I came home from an extended contract, she told me that she can't take it anymore. She told me that she goes crazy alone at home and she has nothing to do. For context, she lost her job during COVID and she didn't want to work again, which I fully support because I want her to be happy and money wasn't a problem. I was petrified, and at first I believed that she wanted to break up. Then she continued with, "I love you so much, and I want you to give me a baby so I can take care of him and have a little bit of you when you're gone on contracts." After 5 months of hard work with no women in a 100-kilometer range, making a baby was done very fast. And multiple times just to be sure, if you know what I mean. I was nervous for the first month because we had always feared that we may not be able to make a baby. But after a few weeks, she woke me up with a long kiss and a smile on her face and showed me the test result. I was the happiest man alive. Everything changed. I was a man now. I was a father. I was on top of the world. I was going with her to every doctor appointment. And when I was away at work, I was asking her for ultrasounds instead of nudes. The birth had no complications and everything went amazing. 1 month later, I went on another contract to make enough money to cover all the needs for our little baby. Halfway through this contract, I received a text from my wife that shattered my life. The text was short and simple, and I'll never forget those 4 words that sent me into the deepest depression that I've ever had. I want a divorce. I didn't understand. I tried to call her to find out what happened, and nothing. After a few days of talking back and forth, she said, "I want a divorce so I can marry the love of my life." I was already preparing my suitcase because I made a request to my company to send me back as an emergency. When I got home, she and the baby were gone. 2 weeks later, I was in divorce court. During this, I found out that she had a lover for well over 4 years, and she plans to marry him as soon as the divorce is over. I knew that my first priority should be a really good lawyer. My wife had a really terrible lawyer, and my wife often spoke up for herself without the help of her lawyer. Her whole complaint was, "I'm a woman, and he's never home." Well, even if the laws usually favor women in my country, cheating is considered to be a break of the wedding contract. And she wanted to take full custody of our kid and for me to pay child support. I was not letting this happen. I spoke with my lawyer and an accountant, and it seems that I only had to pay child support from my base salary. My danger bonus is not included in child support because that bonus is mine and mine alone for my risk to my life at my job. And because the company pays less taxes on the danger bonus, I have a huge danger bonus. My base salary is like 10% of my income, and my danger bonus is the remaining 90%. When she found out that she would take almost nothing from child support, I gave her the option of me taking full custody of the kid, with a no-contact rule. And I would never ask her for child support, and she agreed immediately. Basically, she agreed to just get out of our lives. We even changed our kid's birth certificate to have me as the father and a blank space for the mother. She gave up any kind of claim on the baby. During the trial, her lover was asked to come in as a witness, and this idiot agreed. This guy is the AliExpress version of Andrew Tate. He's an alpha man who treats women like garbage, and this seems to turn my ex-wife on. He has a pretty good income at a small company. He makes less than half as much as I do, but he's always home, and he still makes a lot for our country. Now, during the trial, he said that they cheated behind my back for 3 years, and that the baby is his, and that she tricked me to make a baby to not find out about the cheating. He said all this just to make me feel horrible, I guess, because this is actually kind of illegal. My lawyer explained it to me. It's something like alienating love. Basically, he said that he knew that we were married, but he decided to ruin the marriage anyways. Now, at this point, the child situation was already resolved and an agreement was signed. The judge asked my wife if this was true, and she said yes, so the judge ordered a DNA test just to confirm. After the DNA test confirmed that the child wasn't mine, the judge said that she would let me back out of the agreement. I said, "No, Your Honor, this child is mine and I want to keep him." The judge was stunned for a minute, but then she said, "Well, if the agreement is a valid contract, and since you don't want to void it, then OP, you're the father, and no one can take that child away from you." In my country, it doesn't matter who the biological parent is. The only thing that matters is who's the parent in the documents. And since the other guy knew that he was the father since the beginning and didn't come to the hospital to declare it, he automatically canceled all of his paternal claims. Now the divorce was over. I got my baby and my wife was out of my life. The first thing I did was hire 3 babysitters to work 8 hours a day so that my child has someone to stay with him 24/7, and I have time to prepare my revenge. I started 2 separate companies with the help of an online assistant. You can hire online assistants pretty cheap, and they do whatever you need online. This guy made 2 shell companies. The first company gave out loans to businesses. The second company was in the same industry as my ex-wife's lover, and in the same city as him. So basically, his number 1 competition. At least, he would think that it was his number 1 competition. But really, it was just a fake website for a company that didn't even exist. I made both of these companies with just one person in mind, my ex-wife's lover. My assistant started sending tons of ads about my credit company to him. Emails, targeted Google and Facebook ads, etc. I made sure that he knows that if he needs money, this is the place that he can get money with very low rates. Next, I made a bunch of advertisements about my second company. Now, it was time to send Budget Andrew Tate the bait. Allegedly, my company had some problems in the main country. When he heard about this, he started calling and sending emails to buy them out. My response was something like, "We're an international company. We can't sell the brand, but we can sell some equipment." For clarity, it's illegal for me to sell him the company without showing him the accountant data, which doesn't exist. But as for equipment, I could sell him that with just a simple contract. He wanted to get the competition out of his city. He didn't need the equipment. So, posing as the manager of this company, I gave him a deal. I told him, if you buy our equipment for, let's say, 3 times the market price, then we'll never do business in your city again. In just 2 hours, I received calls and emails to my other fake credit card company asking for money for the equipment. I knew that he was out of money because he spent a lot of money on his future wedding with my ex-wife. I sent him a contract. I said that, based on our evaluation, the equipment isn't worth that money. So he would need to put up his company as collateral that he's not allowed to sell any equipment or parts of his company until he pays everything back. And if he's behind in payment for 6 months straight, I get all of it. Also, in the contract, I stated that the credit company would buy the equipment directly. Basically, I just give myself money. And I made sure that every single word of the contract was completely legal. And the deal was good enough for him to take it. Later that day, he sent me the signed contract. Fast forward a bit. On the day of the wedding, I go to give them an envelope. In my country, you give money in envelopes as a wedding gift. He started to laugh at me and tell me to get out because I'm not invited and he doesn't need my money. I smiled and told him to open it. He looked at the letter and it said that he was expected to come into court next week. He laughed and asked what this was about, and I said, "See you in court. Enjoy your wedding night." He came to court next week, and I was suing him for child support. In my country, if you're aware that you have a child and refuse to go to the hospital to recognize him, you're no longer the father, but you're still forced to pay child support. And it's actually an increased rate because you tried to dodge responsibility like running from a car accident scene. He didn't want to pay, so he tried to say that instead he wants full custody of the child, or at least co-custody. This made me happy because I wanted to drag the trial out as much as possible to drain him of all of his money. But that didn't work because after the judge saw all of his declarations during the divorce trial, she ended the trial really fast. And the judge forced him to pay me 40% of his income from the day the child was born until he finishes college or until I get married. And guess who's now the new owner of his company? Now, I don't even work anymore. I just run his company and spend almost all my time with my child. Man, OP, when people talk about the term FU money, this story is what they're talking about. You had enough money that you could basically just say, I'm going to pay for revenge and just buy this guy's misery. And it worked. That was rSlash Nuclearrevenge, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.